Physical evidence is a race against time. Fingerprints smudge, DNA degrades, and witness memory shifts. But digital footprints operate under different physics. A shadow cast across a server or a hidden backup doesn't fade, it remains. This investigation centered on an unidentified predator active decades ago. Despite multiple victims, the case stalled as records were lost between jurisdictions, and the physical evidence became too degraded to test. In 2026, a routine review of archived evidence led to a discovery. A forensic analyst found references to an encrypted storage vault from the early 2000s, data originally seized from a person of interest who was never charged because the files were inaccessible. At first glance, the data appeared to be in total decay. The vault was a digital ruin of damaged file tables, missing indexes, and sectors that simply wouldn't respond to standard queries. The challenge for the modern forensic unit was determining if a chronological story still existed within this fragmented repository. Success required a shift in perspective. The team stopped treating data corruption as a total loss and began treating the drive as an archaeological site, where even a shattered artifact holds the shape of its original purpose. The investigators bypassed the standard approach. They made no attempt to break the vault's 256-bit AES encryption through direct force. Instead, they looked at the environment surrounding the data. The encryption algorithm was secure, but the legacy software and archived recovery keys used to manage it 20 years ago had developed significant vulnerabilities over time. By exploiting these secondary flaws in the outdated authentication methods, analysts were able to step around the encryption entirely without needing the original password. Inside the vault, the file content was still a mess of corrupted code. The team pivoted, looking past the files themselves to the damaged headers where the file's internal history is stored. They were looking for metadata. This embedded data, creation dates and hardware signatures, is rarely seen. Analysts identified a signature for a specific workstation, produced briefly in 2003, sold primarily to architectural firms. When the team cross-referenced this specific hardware model with the original suspect's employment records, they found he was one of only 3 employees at his firm issued that exact workstation. The search narrowed from a citywide population to a single desk. This provided a concrete link. The investigation was no longer about a vague profile. It was now anchored to a specific machine and a documented supply chain. Navigating deeper into the drive's corrupted indexing structures, the team located a concealed directory hidden beneath several layers of broken system tiles. The files were broken. Modern software identifies the edges of these fragments, stitching them together to rebuild images from scattered bits. These reconstructed files contained precise timestamps and GPS coordinates, placing the user at specific locations on specific nights. However, large gaps remained where the suspect had clearly attempted to scrub the drive by manually deleting files. Deleting a file usually only removes the system's index to that data, not the data itself. The information remains on the platter, invisible to the user, until new data is written over that exact spot. To fill the gaps, investigators looked for residual signatures. They pulled server logs and storage allocation records, ghostly traces of the file's existence that the suspect didn't even know were being recorded. While the suspect focused on deleting his local work, the automated, unthinking architecture of the backups and system logs continued to remember his actions, preserving a map of everything he tried to destroy. The culmination of this digital excavation was a shift in focus. The forensic team stopped looking at isolated files and started seeing a recurring sequence of logins, file transfers, and system commands. By locking the metadata, the reconstructed fragments, and the residual signatures together, they built a minute-by-minute timeline of the suspect's digital behavior. This digital sequence revealed a massive contradiction. While the suspect's original alibi claimed he was home and away from his computer, the data points showed active file manipulation and logins from his specific workstation at the exact moments the crimes occurred. Physical memory can be manipulated or lost to time, but digital shadows remain fixed in the architecture, waiting for the technology required to read them to finally catch up.
Most cold cases stall for a very specific reason. Time degrades physical evidence. Memories fade, witnesses disappear, and investigators simply run out of actionable information. But the investigation we're looking at today faced the exact opposite problem. Detectives weren't paralyzed by a lack of evidence. They were buried under thousands of fragmented digital remnants, server logs, and corrupted timestamps. For years, the suspect in this case meticulously deleted their files. They operated under a common assumption that erasing a file would permanently sever their connection to the crimes. Look at this logic sequence showing how digital architecture actually operates. When a user deletes a file, the system doesn't completely destroy the data. Instead, the act of deletion generates a new, invisible system record, leaving behind structural metadata mapping exactly where that file used to be. Investigators simply tracked these permanent architectural ghosts within a massive, connected web of system records. The first step in narrowing down this massive dataset involved examining cloud infrastructure. Specifically, investigators looked at the invisible administrative data that users never see, like automatic synchronization records and background access requests. Buried inside that cloud data, forensic analysts isolated a distinct routine. Over multiple years, a user initiated a cluster of uploads late at night from the same geographic region, only to delete all of that content mere hours later. To track where those specific uploads were coming from, investigators turned to a notoriously difficult source of evidence: the disaster recovery archives of defunct internet service providers. By navigating legacy backup systems, they extracted partial, decaying network logs. This diagram plots ISP network traffic against cloud metadata timelines. Cross-referencing these datasets, analysts found the traffic spikes lined up perfectly. That alignment provided a continuous digital transit route. The network traffic flowed through multiple server nodes, terminating at one highly secure encrypted vault. By layering global cloud requests over regional internet service records, investigators took seemingly random system noise and built a precise geographic and chronological map of the suspect's movements. Here, we see a visual representation of the suspect's highly specific file naming convention. They unconsciously formatted their media using a distinct string of numbers separated by uncommon character breaks. Forensic analysts recognized this formatting habit immediately. Searching through archives of unsolved cases across different jurisdictions, they found the exact same digital signature, linking multiple disparate investigations back to a single user. To solidify those connections, the team looked at the microscopic level of the files themselves, focusing on compression artifacts. This animation illustrates how compression artifacts form. Every operating system and software suite processes data slightly differently. When a file is saved, software leaves mathematical distortions behind, like unique tool marks on a fired bullet. Stacking media fragments from various cold cases, the jagged distortions interlocked perfectly, proving every piece was processed through the exact same workstation. With the specific machine identified, analysts traced its distinct network footprint straight back to the encrypted vault they had pinpointed earlier. The very things the suspect did to evade detection, their repetitive renaming of files, and their reliance on custom hardware, had unintentionally built an inescapable map of their behavior. While the digital evidence isolated a highly probable suspect, the investigation faced a strict legal hurdle. To survive courtroom scrutiny, they needed absolute certainty. To achieve that certainty, the team initiated a completely independent investigative track, employing genetic genealogy to map biological relationships through public family tree databases. This dual map diagram shows the result. On one side, a biological family tree expands. On the other, a network map tracks the digital forensics. Both systems converged on the exact same individual. This dual confirmation reduced the probability of coincidence to zero. The resulting arrest was remarkably quiet. No chase, no public spectacle. Instead, prosecutors brought the suspect to court using a flawless 20-year timeline built entirely from the digital residue he assumed had been destroyed. This case demonstrates exactly how modern forensic science is evolving. Unlike physical evidence, which rots and degrades over time, digital evidence actually improves with age as our analytical tools and hardware become more powerful. It proves that deleting data does not guarantee safety, it only buys delay. In the architecture of the modern world, every system remembers, every action leaves a trace, and the truth is permanently archived.